What's up, y'all? Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Man, I'm gonna wait for those of you guys to jump in, but I'm super glad that y'all are here today, that are jumping in, that are gonna be in here today. What's up, Reagan? Thanks for joining. Again, super excited for y'all to be here. Virtual sports group. I need to learn more about what y'all do. This sounds like ABQ. You be knowing already. I didn't even ask the question yet. But where y'all from then? Since she didn't jump the gun or he didn't jump the gun, which I appreciate. Put in there where you're from, y'all. Let me know where you're from, All right, Amber, what's up? Taisha, what's up, girl? Congratulations again on your commitment. Super excited for you. Marissa, what's up? Sarah, what's up? Gianna, what's happening? Good to see y'all. What's up, Whitney? Man, good to see you. Hope y'all are doing well down there in the GA. But what's up, y'all? Man, I just got off of a really cool call. I don't know if you guys know, but I got a 3-month program that I'm working with families and athletes, and we had our welcome call today where I sat down with the athletes and their parents and talked to what the program was going to be about, and I'm really excited to help them navigate this journey. So we got athletes in that group from Indiana, Wisconsin, Michigan, California, Hawaii, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, and that's Florida. So like really amazing to be able to say that I've been able to touch people across the country. It's really awesome, and I don't take it for granted. So I'm super excited to be here with y'all as well. But we did have our welcome to call today, and I will say that I will allow, if anyone is interested, I got space for like 2 or 3 more athletes if you're interested in joining. But today is the absolute last day because we're grinding it tomorrow with the athletes specifically, beginning with our top 50 list and what our strengths are and how do we speak to those things in all the things that we're sending to coaching. So if that's something you're interested in joining, DM me after the live. I'll get you the link. You got to get the purchase in, and then we'll get you going right away. But welcome. What's up, Wendy? Okay, what's up, Aaliyah? Kelsey, Ontario, California, we got in the house. We got Albuquerque. Where else y'all from? Let me know. Maddie, what's up? All right, y'all got a lot of questions again today, so we will definitely get into the questions. But let me know where you're from. Don't be shy. Tap in. Let me know where you're from. Let me know. As a reminder, the lives, so I'll be clear, the last live I was not able to download. Chicago, what's up, Sarah? I know you're from Chicago. The last live, everyone's a Lobo. I got a tattoo of the UNM on my arm, actually. So everyone is a Lobo. But just so you guys know, the live I wasn't able to download last week, so hopefully this week I can download it. But all the lives are moved over to my YouTube channel. So if you ever need access to the YouTube channel, let me know. But all the lives are there, all the recordings are there. But if you have a question, I will always put in my stories. Here's how you ask questions for this week's call. You will insert your questions there or direct message me your questions, and I'll make sure that I cover them in the next call if it's possible. I have a lot of questions that I get, but just know that is kind of how it flows. So if you ask questions in the thread, usually I don't get to those because they're not the ones that I receive. Like literally I have like my questions on my iPad that I get every week. So that's kind of how I flow with this to make it more easy and helpful for me to answer all the questions I need to. So let's jump in. So the first question I have is, from a recruiter point of view, if you've seen an athlete play 2 times and they did great, but you see them again and they have an off day all around, do you cross them off your list? And so that's a really good question. And I want to say this because I can't say this enough, okay? That we as coaches know that you are not perfect. And I think you all put way more pressure on yourself to be perfect than we put on you to be perfect. Now, yes, we want to see your skill. We want to see how consistent you are, your skill. But more times than not, your game play is not always how we determined that we were going to come watch you play. A lot of times we've heard things about you, we've seen you in different aspects, film that you've given us. We've watched that, and then we made a decision to come watch you play to see if it kind of plays out in the game. But we do know that, like, just like you all, I love you, sweethearts. But just like you all, our athletes also struggle. They also have off days. Cousin, what up, Big Tune? But so just know, like, we don't expect you to be perfect. And if we saw you play twice and you did really, really well, if they're seeing you a third time, there has to be some good to this. Now, I will say that depending on what your grad year is, which I think that I asked this athlete, she's 2027. So depending on like your age group, she can now communicate with those coaches. So I would simply reach out and say, thank you so much for coming to watch me play. I would love to know what feedback you have for me, or, you know, are you still recruiting 2027s? Because at this point, if you're a 2027 or a 2026, the coaches, if they are interested in you, can be able to let you know. What's up, Morgan? You should utilize your ability to now communicate, to get the information that you need from them. So if you're unclear, first of all, do you know that they're coming to watch you play? So I would ask that question. But also, secondly, you could ask, like, hey, coach, like, I've seen you at a few of my games. Not sure if you're watching me or watching my team. If you're watching me, I would love to kind of know what you see about me, what you evaluate, what you think about where I'm at in this game, and is there anything I can do to improve or anything I can do to showcase more to you? Make sure you include a video in that so that you can help make sure that you give them something to evaluate as they read through your videos, if that makes sense. So really good question. All right, question number 2 is, for sure, your opinion, how much weight does the team you play for impact your aspirations to play Division I? Assume the team is playing in all of the right tournaments and the player is doing well at camps. Your team is super important, not just for the exposure that they give you, but because, like, the relationships that they have with other coaches. So what I mean by that is, a lot of times it's the name can be great, but a lot of times people pay for the name. So like a lot of coaches are now getting to a point where we're getting sort of like the name doesn't hold as much weight unless you know the background behind that program. And there's some programs you're like, okay, I know, like, they just own their name, like they want to make sure that their product is good. So it depends on the program. This could change, but what you really need in that particular team is the connections that the coach has and the atmosphere that the coach can bring to help you be competitive and be better. So I still believe that the teams are important, but more so it's what comes with the team as far as like the coach's ability to have connections with other coaches, as well as how are you elevating your skill in that space, being a part of that team. Are you competing with the best of the best? That's the most important part. So if you have the name, but your team is not competitive, it does not help you. If you have the team name and you have the relationships and you're competitive, that is the triple threat, if that makes sense. So good question. What is the likelihood Division I coaches go to watch 14U games? If so, any advice to increase those chances? I would say it's not as likely until you get to like PGF. There are a ton of Power 4 schools that go watch the 14U brackets at like those bigger tournaments or Alliance Cup, because they know that they're going to get the type of athletes that they're looking for to get on their radar. And this is how they then get information to like send those mailings out to those athletes. It is because they discovered them in 14U. So how you can help yourself in that scenario is, like I said last week, as an 8th grader, you have the ability to go to college camps because you are now a PSA, a prospect student athlete. So if you're balling out in those scenarios, they're going to want to know more about what team you play for and where your schedule looks like, and then they're more likely to be on your radar. But in general, we have the teams that we know are going to usually have great athletes at that young and have those connections, again, to make with the college coaches, and then they're more likely to come watch. So it's definitely not by chance. It's not something where it's like, I'm going to wake up and go watch the 14U team. No, there has to be a purpose for why we go watch the teams play. Make sense? So that's a really good question. Hopefully that answered the question for you. So let's go to another question. At what age are the best times to start showcase camps? So I made a video about that today. So definitely go check the video that I made today for baseball versus softball. So I don't know much about baseball. I don't speak on baseball at all, but showcasing, I just kind of mentioned 8th grade is a really good year to get your name out there and to get yourself noticed and seen by college coaches. So showcasing tournaments, the video basically said if you are in 8th grade or in 12th grade, maybe even 9th grade, What's really important is to get into those showcases where there are a lot of where a lot of coaches are, so you can get what we call identified or create exposure for yourself for those particular programs, and then kind of get a feedback for where you are based on everybody that's at that tournament. When you get to the 10th, 11th, and 10th and 11th grade, you want to spend more time being specific in your hunt to the school that you're interested in. You want to know more about their cultures and the team atmosphere and the environment and the facilities and what that school offers. That usually happens in the 10th and 11th grade. So that's kind of where you want to be more specific. But in that 8th and that 12th grade year, you kind of got to get exposed to as many people as possible. So I would say 8th grade is the time where you should be starting to get yourself identified in those environments. So good question. Likelihood that a Division I coach will go watch. Okay, so I already answered that question. Next question. Weight of the name. Yep, talked about that too. So good question. How should you go about emailing the coaching staff of one college, separate or together? So she's asking, like, when you send an email to college coaches, should you send it individually to each coach on staff, or should you lump them all together? And so my best advice to this is, if you're not like a pitcher specifically, or if you're, I would say this, you should send it always to the head coach. Like, the head coach should always get it, but you definitely want to include some assistant coaches. If they only have one other assistant coach, add that assistant coach. If they have two other assistant coaches, I think you could add both of them. And if they start having 3, 4, and 5, be a little bit more specific with the head coach, the associate head coach. And then what I would do is think about, like, if I'm a pitcher, who is the pitching coach? If my strength is I'm a power hitter, who is the hitting coach? If those are the cases, then you want to make sure you include them, right? And sometimes you're not going to find the head coach's information on the website, so you definitely want to send it to all the other assistants if you don't have the head coach on there. But if you can, always include the head coach. So that's a really, really good question. How should I go about emailing the coach? Oh yeah, so my next question is how to get more views on X. So yeah, I would say X is a long game play, but it is a play that you want to do consistently. So just like with any social media, the more you're consistent, the more your views increase. Now, the more you're consistent with content that is something that people want to watch, that also increases your chances of being seen. So I would say, to start off, let your friends know that you're posting videos on X, and then for them to go follow you. And then ask them when you post things to like it, to comment on it. That's going to help, like, the algorithm kind of get to know you a little bit better. I would say also, like, what should be happening if you're on a team that understands social media and the value of social media, they usually will repost your stuff. So if you're not on a team that does that, maybe ask your head of that team, like, hey, are you guys going to be more active on social media? But when that happens, we might follow the team. And because they're posting their athletes and talking highly of their athletes, we go to follow them and we go to watch their videos. So, and who's on their team and what they're doing. So I would say, for sure, get your friends involved, get your team involved, but post things that people want to watch, that coaches want to watch. So when you're constantly posting just game footage, it's not going to be something that we want to stick around and watch. When you're constantly just posting videos and you have the black screen on your videos from your game changer, we're not going to sit there and watch that. Okay, remember, in general, you have 3 seconds to catch a coach's attention. 3 seconds. So what can you capture for me? What can I capture from watching your first 3 seconds of your video? If I can meet and beat that 3-second rule, I'm going to be someone that coaches want to watch. Okay, same is true for me and my content. You guys follow me because hopefully, I used to say, what's up, y'all? Okay, for today. But now I kind of get right to the 10 things you should know about this, or something that I know is going to catch your attention. So even when you are just doing film with no words, like, what is that thing, that hook from your first video? It's gonna be like, oh yeah, that's I definitely got to make sure that happens. So that would be my advice to you on that. Will you get feedback from a coach at a prospect camp if you are younger than a junior? Interesting question. So this is actually, I had a long conversation today with a dad of a 14U athlete that's playing 16U, and he was at the camp that I was at this weekend, and 16U was at one field and 18U was at another field. And The athlete was at the tournament camp that was at the beginning of Saturday morning, and then they had to go and play at a different field. And so he was telling me how he was a little bit disappointed in the fact that there was no coaches that came to the 16U field. And I want you to know a couple of things about this. So my first question to him is, before I could answer the question, I needed more information. So the first question, it was not you. It was actually, was it you? It might have been you. So the first question, I don't think it was you. No, it was. Okay. So the first question that I asked was, after the camp, did your athletes stay and talk to the coaches at the camp? And he said, no, because I thought that we had to get to our game, so I left early, so my daughter didn't get to talk to our coaches. I said, okay, that's one. I said, did she have a profile sheet, even if she did get to talk to a coach? And he said, no. And I was like, okay. He's like, because we're trying to get everything else together. And I'm like, I completely get it. So here's the thing. When you have an opportunity to be in front of college coaches, and you are in front of a college coach, like at a showcase, for most athletes that are younger, outside of that space, we actually can't talk to you. So you want to take as much time and advantage in that time frame to get yourself known. So first and foremost, that's number one. So I said you 100% need to make sure the next time you go to a camp that you make sure that you stay after and you talk to the coaches and give them a profile sheet of you. Now, why the profile sheet? The profile sheet is important because here's the thing. I kind of made a story about this the other day that I literally saw this weekend. I had an athlete do the math. I saw 320 athletes in one day over a 12-hour period. I had 8 profile sheets that I got from the camp, and I had basically, those are the ones that I remembered. I met in my line at least 25 to 30 athletes, and half of them did not have profile sheets. So do you think that I remembered who they are? And even if I remember their face, I didn't remember their name. So if I wanted to go look them up, I want to see if they sent me an email, there would be no recollection of me being able to do that because I don't have any information about them. Makes sense? So that's really important. I know people say negative things on profile sheets, and coaches don't like that and they don't want them, but I'm telling you, you'd rather that they have your information and not need it than need it and not have it, right? So that's really, really important. Now, what a tip that I will give you is, I told him you also should put your game times for that particular tournament on the back of your profile sheet or somewhere on your profile sheet with the location of where your games actually are. So that way a coach can find you if they're looking for you, because she was an athlete that was a lefty power hitter that was smashing the ball. And I'm sure there were some coaches that might have wanted to go watch her play but did not know anything about her or didn't have the information to actually go watch her. So again, it goes back to my main statement that you have to create a reason why we want to come watch you play. Okay, so or we need a nudge of how do we get the information for how do we go find you, right? So there's that. I also asked, the second part of this was, how much pre-work did you do to the camp? So did you send out emails to coaches before to let them know that you were playing at that tournament or that camp? And did you give them information on your game schedule as well as the field address? And so he said, well, out of the schools that were there, maybe 3 actually showed up. And so she did email those 3. And I said, okay, so I get that. The other thing that I want to say is you have to think about the coaches who are there at those showcases as well. So this is I'm just going deep in this showcase thing today, but what's also important to understand is I want you to think about who is at that showcase. So based on when you signed up, whoever they said was going to be there, I would double check before you go, a week before, who actually confirmed to be at that tournament. Here's why this is important. Because the schools that were at that tournament were lower level Division I schools. There was no Power 4 schools there. So you have to understand that if I'm a lower level Division I school, I'm probably still trying to wrap up my 26s and my 27s. And this athlete was a 29. So even when you email me and you say, hey coach, I'm a 2029 power hitter, I'm not going to say I'm going to ignore it, but it's not going to be my priority in that particular moment, because right now I need to find a shortstop for next year, right? Or I need to find a player for next year. So, and then I would say that increases based on the level. So where some of the Power 4s have a forward thinking, let me get this girl on my radar and I want to go watch her play because I saw her just smash the ball. They might be more interested in going to watch the 16U at that particular tournament. versus like a lower level Division I school will probably spend more time at that 18U level. And so here's the thing, there's a caveat to this. As a coach, there are certain tournaments that I know that I go to where I am not going to find high caliber athletes at the 18U level. I know that I'm not going to find that. So I'll give you, this might suck to say, there might have been a few at the last tournament I was at, but I was at a tournament, an off-brand tournament in Palmdale, which is my friend who runs it. So I appreciate him, and I don't mean any shade by this. Okay, so this is me being real, but it was in Palmdale. And I know for sure that I was not going to find high quality 2026 athletes at the 18U level. So I spent most of my time watching the 16Us, just kind of looking ahead. Okay. Now, this particular tournament that I was at this weekend, I knew we're in California, we're in the Bay Area, we're in a central location where I know we're going to pull great athletes at every level. And so I had to make the decision that I was going to stick to the 18Us because for my new program, like now being my new program, Norfolk State, we are a new coaching staff and we know that there are some gaps in our roster for next year. So my mentality is I 100% need to find high caliber athletes that are in 18U. Okay. So like, you don't know that as a parent, I know that as a coach. Okay. And so this is why like things like the programs that I offer to people is really important. It's not a sale, but like, these are things that you would not know, right? Unless you know, or you know someone that knows. So the same thing is going to be very true about this next weekend's tournament and showcase in Stockton. I know for sure that there are going to be high caliber athletes at the 18U level, and because I still need 18U players, I still need 2026 athletes and 2027 athletes, I am more than likely going to be watching the 18U bracket than the 16U bracket. But if I go to a tournament, again, that's an off-brand tournament, and I know that I'm not going to see quality athletes at the 18U level, I'm going to go watch the 16U. So like, that's just kind of how this process works. It's a weird thing, right? So 16U, if you are 2028, 2029, is definitely a place you want to be, but you have to understand that. So back to the first question was, do we give feedback? So we don't give feedback unless they ask or unless it's a requirement of the tournament. And so if your athlete wants feedback, definitely ask in the line, like, hey, what can I learn? But I will tell you, not in the line, I would probably ask more so like in the drill. So like when you're working with that coach and you're doing something in the drill, I would ask for feedback right after that, then wait till you get in the line and we go through all the people that we're talking to and you ask for feedback. We're gonna be like, yeah, I don't really remember. Like, so there's also a timing component to this, but that's a really good question, and hopefully I answered it in the best way possible, but I try to be as real as possible with this. So the last thing that I will say to that is, actually that's all I'm gonna say about it. So I think I got my point across on that statement. So that was sort of the feedback that I got that's sort of the feedback I have for you guys this week. So there's a lot of nuances, and I would say like, the best thing you can do, and this is no shade to sports recruits or anything else. Actually, it is shade to sports recruits. I'm just going to be honest. But when you're in this process, a lot of it is about like the connections that people can make or the inside scoops that you know. And a database that holds your profiles and your videos doesn't give you that same thing that I would say a person who's going through this process can help you through. So this is not about me. There's another company called NSR, like I said, and I will always push people to Mandy and NSR because I think that she does an amazing job. But this can be a journey that can be challenging, and a lot of times you don't know what you don't know, number one, but you don't know what you're struggling with. So shout out to one of my athletes. One of our first conversations, which I posted the video in my reels last week when I was kind of giving my program to people, was one athlete who was really struggling to stand out. She was doing everything right. Like, she had the videos posted of her in games. She had no black screen. She was making her videos short to the point, had her best videos in the front. She was doing work on her own. She was weightlifting. She was doing all the things that you would expect to be seen on your social media. And I had to tell her straight up in our conversation, like, you're doing all the right things, but nothing is standing out to me, which means that there is, like, if it's not standing out to me, it's not sending out to other college coaches. So we have to figure out what that gap is and how do we fix that gap. And she was a 2026 athlete when I started working with her, and thankfully, like, we were able to kind of get some things going. Once she started owning exactly who she was and having confidence in that very thing, man, she like shined, and she got an offer within 3 months of that, which I think she kind of was working on as we were going. But I'm just like, man, the way that she really figured out how to make it happen was awesome. And so if you're a 2027 or 2026 athlete, like, you could be doing all the right things and still missing the mark. So I want you to just be able to answer these 3 questions, and I'm gonna leave you with this. When you post, you have to answer these 3 questions. What did you want me to know about you from that video? Like, what are your strengths? Like, what can I take away from watching your video? And is your strengths the number one thing that I see? Okay. Why do I care that you have that strength? Okay. And the last question is, how does it help me and my program win a championship? If your videos, when you post that, cannot answer those 3 questions, you're probably someone that's confusing a coach, that's unsure of what you're trying to showcase to us, and it's gonna keep you stuck. All right. So with that, that's all I got for you all today. I'm super excited to be getting started with, like I said, my group that I have going on. We start tomorrow, and we're gonna dive right into the things that we talked about today. What schools should we be targeting, and what are my strengths based off of my skill, and how do I speak about that to answer those 3 questions. So you got an inside scoop to the first week. And so there you go. As always, I'm going to get a tattoo this week, by the way. I should tell you guys about that. I had a moment in my life where I doubted myself. I always thought that I had 3 strikes against me. Okay, I always thought that I was a woman, I was black, and I was gay. So I always felt like no matter what, I had to prove myself. I had to be better than everybody else, and I had this sort of thing. So I used to think I had 3 strikes. And the reality is that these were not strikes. These were check marks. These were things that God gave me, that put into my life, that helped me now serve other people to their best of my ability. I can be my most authentic self now because I realize how much God loved me, right? And how much God created in me. And I want to just kind of leave you with this. I'm going to get a lighthouse on my arm that talks about letting your light shine. And I want to tell you guys that you have those very same things. Like, you have these things that sometimes might seem like they're hardships. They might seem like they're tough. They might seem like there's setbacks, right? Injuries, right? Parents getting divorced, right? Changing teams, like a coach that didn't care for you, that a coach that neglected you, a coach that was not beneficial to your journey, mentality, like all the things. I want you to know that in all those moments, there is something that God has special for you. And I want you to figure out what those things are, because it is the light that's going to shine in you from those moments that are going to make you the best person for the right program, because you understand that the pain was meant for your purpose. Make sense? So with that, I want you to know that out of 8 billion people in the world, there's only one of you, which makes you unique, valuable, and enough, just as you are. And God loves you, and so do I. You guys have a good night, y'all. Peace.